Hi, I'm casket Clinket artist Dean Heron, and today we're making canoe bowls. We're going to be making our canoe bowls out of yellow cedar. That way we don't have to worry too much about the drying process, although there might be a little bit of moisture in this block of wood. I won't know what the wood's going to do until I start carving on it. But like with any project, you want to put your center line on. You want to put your center line along the whole side of it. And that way, with the center line, you can match things up. So we'll put a center line on this way. We're going to measure the length and get a center line around the corner to act as the middle of our canoe bowl, and then we'll draw on where that bowl might, what that bowl is going to look like. And then we'll cut off the excess wood on the bandsaw, and we'll probably cut out the planes on the outside as well. We may even do the little dip part here as well. We'll see how it goes. Cut up as much as you can if you have access to a bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can use your adze, and you can adze away this area, or you can use your chisels and your mallet, depending on what tools you have access to. I just find it convenient on the bandsaw since I have one, and it makes the job go nice and easy. So we'll draw on the profiles, and then we'll get going from there. Okay, so I've come up with a profile that I like, that I've drawn on there. This will be the side profile, and then the top profile there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out on the bandsaw here. And once I've done these two down here, what I'll do is probably cut this one back out and then draw these ones back on. Alright, so this is what we'll do. So with our canoe bowls, we've cut out the shape now on the bandsaw, and it's really an exaggerated shape of the Great Northwest Coast canoes, kind of more of a northern style canoe. And it's a bowl, and it's going to be a really nice shape to it. So what I've drawn on here are just the parts of the canoe onto the parts of the canoe. When I'm cutting it out, I got this nice front form here. It's the bow of the boat. Over here I've got the stern, and these lines up on the top here represent the gunnels, and it's you can cut these into nice shapes once you've got the formatted there. And if you flip it over, you can see that I've put the keel on there as well. And we'll be using gouges and a mallet to get all that out, to kind of excavate all this extra wood out of here. And on the one that I've been working on previously, you can see how we've done that. We've taken away the bits where you want the keel to go, the gunnels on a nice shape here. We've kind of taken out this area to look more like almost like a spoon shape. It has all these nice planes on it, and you can see that it's similar in shape to the one that we're going to make now. Again, you have the bow of the boat, you have the stern, and it's really an exaggerated shape just to make a really nice looking bowl. So we'll use the gouges, and we'll take off the keel first and get the bottom shape on there first before I start touching anything in the actual bowl itself. And that way I'll have a place to work to. And make sure that your center line's on. You see I've got a center line on through the whole piece of wood, just like the paddle. And I've got a center line that goes around the center of the wood, going the opposite way. And that way I can keep it even. It's really important that we don't lose those center lines when we're working it, so that way we can eye it up. So we've secured it now to the table, and I'm going to use a number 11 15, so it's 15 millimeters across, and it's 11 bend, so it's quite deep. You can see on the end of that chisel there, and I can use my mallet, and I'll just cut along the side of this keel line here, and you're just following it. So one hand's guiding, my hand that's holding the tool's guiding, and then I'm using the mallet to actually move the wood. And I'll start pretty shallow back here, just sort of make a line right against this keel line, and we'll start taking that wood out of there. When it comes to the end here, you don't want to go all the way to the end. You want to leave yourself a little bit of extra wood just for the gunnel. But back here you can take a little bit extra out, just to make that keel line come out of it. So you do one side and then you can do the other. You can see I'm just taking a couple swipes down here. And we're just taking the wood out for now. We're not too worried about the depth of it. There's lots of wood there. And right now we're just trying to define some planes. You just want to sight along, you just want to look along both sides here from a little bit further back, just to make sure you're getting the depth on either side nice and even. Okay, so you can see with the bowl, I've drawn on the bottom again using my center line and some tracing paper. Got the bottom shape that I would like to have. And again, what I'm going to use most likely is, again, the number 335 chisel. I'm just going to cut around the edge here. And I'm going to go right up against the edge, and it's going to go from the edge of where I've drawn onto to the gunnel. And when I get up to the gunnel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the chisel again. I'll do the same thing that I did on the keel here. I'll just run the chisel along the line there, so that you get that nice plane here. So we'll start rounding off a little bit. We're getting that shape of that part of the canoe bowl together. So we're just finishing up here. Just getting some of this extra wood out of here. You can see the planes come together nicely. Again, we're trying to get a nice even shape on either side here. So I'll need to flip it around and work on the other side for a bit. And after we get the sides evened up as much as we can, we can start putting on this gunnel at the very top of the boat. Now the boat's flipped over, so it's kind of hard to see at that moment, but we'll flip it over and flip it around and we'll even off the sides. So whatever you've done to one side, do to the other side. And you just continue covering with it. These chisels work really nice with this yellow cedar, and soon we'll have the bottom out. Alright, so we've got most of our shape out of there. There's a few areas that are a bit high, but we can do that as we go along here. But you want to get as close as you can. So the next part, what I'm going to do on the hull side of this canoe bowl is to do the upper gunnels. So again, this is upside down. This is the base of our canoe. We're going to do this line that runs across here. And what I'm going to change to is a number 9, number 915. So it's a little bit shallower gouge than the 11, and you can see it has a little bit of a not as pronounced curve on it, and it's really good for doing this nice area here. When it comes to the gunnels here on the side, you want to keep them high in the middle, and then they'll go deeper down and towards the ends here. So they don't need to be really deep. You don't need to take off a lot of meat of the wood here, but you want to follow that line nonetheless. You can put this into your lap and hold it on your lap, and put it sideways and hold it between your knees with your leather apron, or you can just put it on your bench, and that way you can use your 2 hands freely. The other way method works just takes a little bit more experience if you don't have a lot of experience with carving, just so that you're not going to injure yourself. But I've just secured it to the bench, and I think this method works really nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow that line all the way across. So I'm going to start the cut on the opposite side of this center line, not too far back, just a little bit back on the side here. I'm going to keep it nice and shallow, and then I'm going to follow that line all the way through, as close as I can on both sides. Again, the hand holding the chisel will guide it. The mallet's doing the work by taking the wood out. So it's just light little taps. Okay, and then you're going to follow that line on the same line. You're going to go all the way the other way. So you're going to turn your chisel around, and then you can again use your guide as it, or you can flip your boat around. Depends, it's up to you. And you'll get both sides nicely done, and I'll show you it in a minute. So there you have it. I put on the gunnel side here. You can see just a little bit. You can see the line. It's a little bit more formed under that thick gunnel, and it goes all the way around this top portion here, and you can see where I've used the number 9 there. All we're trying to do is just define that line right there, and then we'll start blending some of this work in here. So I've done one side, now I've got to do the other. You can see I haven't touched this one yet. Again, when you're starting off with this one, you start on your center point here, and you'll work this way working with the grain, and then you'll come back this way with the grain. Just light taps, you don't want to take too much off here. It's just really shallow in the center there, and then it starts blending into these nice and bow and stern of this canoe bowl, and then you can start blending in some of this wood here. And that's the work we'll do right now on the other side. And we'll do a little bit more blending, and then from there what we'll do, we'll start taking out of the middle. Once you've set up your process or set up the canoe with all your planes and your gunnels and your center lines and all that kind of stuff, the actual work of taking it out goes pretty quick, especially if you're working with some good chisels, hand tools. Comes out quite nicely. And then when it comes to the finishing portion of the bowls, you'll move to traditional tools. So your bent knives that we made earlier in another workshop, you can use them. And right now we'll just do this other side, clean up a little bit more, and then we'll start hollowing it out. So you can see here, we've started evening out the hull. There's still quite a lot of work to do on it. But we got the main shape out. You can see the keel line there for the bow, and then you can see the keel line in the back for the stern. And we'll smooth that out a little bit more, obviously, get that down to a little bit more refined shape. And then we'll start working on the inside, and we'll take that out. Again, using chisels, and we'll do that process next once we've just finished off this outer part. It's getting pretty close for hollowing out, and then you can start finishing it after. Now I've started cleaning up some of the outside here, just getting some of the high spots down and getting it to a shape where I can move on to working on the inside. And you'll find with working on this particular shape, the bent knives that we made earlier on are the only sharp knife, or the only shape that will get into those spots. You can try other different knives, maybe skews or straight knives, but these ones here, especially up against the keel, are the only type of knife that will actually get in there. And you can try some different ones, experiment if you want, but these knives are the ones that work for me. So we've got it down pretty much to a part where we can actually start taking out some of the center. And it's good to do it relatively quickly after you've got your bowl to this kind of shape. You'll find that when you're carving out these shapes and you got all this taken off, and you've taken out the bowl and you got your keel on now, the wood actually starts getting stressed because it's being moved in a couple different directions. So what you want to do right now is release that stress, and that's taking out the center here. So for that, what we're going to use are different size gouges. So you can see here I've got a nice 1125 for some sharper areas, a 925 to remove some of the wood. And as I get towards the bottom of the bowl, I'll start using some different types of gouges. I have a spoon gouge, and then I have a gouge that has a bit of a bend in it. So this is an 8L30, so it's 30 millimeters across. The bend in it's 8, and the L is just for the shape of the actual gouge for itself. And for this one here, it's nice to get on the bottom of that bowl with a gouge like that. These ones will just go straight in, and this one has a nice curve, and you can actually bend the handle a bit as you're excavating all that out of there. And the same thing with the spoon gouge. Spoon gouge has a really nice round bottom to it, so it's nice to get into some of those corners. And once you start using them and showing them to you, you'll see what I mean. But those are tools that we're going to use right now. That and our mallet, and we'll start taking out the center here. Okay, so you can see here I've just drawn on some reference lines here. Just I want to bring the ends to a little bit of a point, just to start off with, and then I'll eventually just round them off a little bit, make a little bit of a trough here. But just for now, that's where I want to go, and I'm gonna, just like I did with the spoon, you're gonna work from your high point down to your low point. working from your high point to your low point. So you're working from the outer edge to the center of your bowl. You'll find that's the easiest way to get it out. When you're using the gouges and stuff, otherwise you'd be knocking up against the grain and it won't work all that great for you. So we'll just see how this goes. I can just put it onto the bench here, and I'll try a few different tools here. You might find that you need to hold down your piece of wood either by your elbow or by other means, because it's gonna kind of rock back and forth on you. But what I usually do is just I'll have it rested up against the inside of my arm here when I'm using it. And you just work down to that center. You don't need to take a whole bunch of wood out at once. You don't need to really crank on it for getting big chunks out. It's not really what we do for carving. Here we're just trying to remove the wood. It's a nice slow process. Like I said, I'm holding it with the inside of my elbow on the edge of the boat here, just to counteract that lever. And we just go from there. When you're working with the gouges, sometimes these, if you pound it really quite hard into the piece you're working on, it gets caught on these edges here. And the tendency when it gets stuck in there is to kind of like pry it loose. It's a little bit easier if you just sort of wiggle it just a little bit. You don't want to break these the ends off of your chisel. And you just work from the outside in. Just like we've been working all along, working with the grain makes this job a little easier. And as well, I'm going to try to keep inside these pencil lines. Keeping inside the pencil lines will just allow you to fine tune the wood, the ends of the wood or the gunnel part of it. You don't want to lose any of the wood on the sides. Just keep it thick for now, the gunnels. So you're just going to move it back and forth, turn it around, use it back and forth. I'm always trying to find different ways to hold the boat. You can see it slipped there when you're using your mallet. So now I'm just using the wrist here just to hold up the wood as I'm working on it. Just while I'm taking out more of this, more of the center here. So sort of just along the edges here, I'm still using the straight mallet, but I'll move to this type of mallet here, or this type of chisel. It's the 8L, has a bit of a curve to it, and that way when I'm working on the bottom here, I can actually move the chisel backwards, just so that I don't go straight into the bottom here. Because you, on the bottom of the canoe bowl here, you want a nice round bottom. So just setting up for the next part, what we can do here, I've got the depth that I want in the bowl of the boat here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off this part here, just where the gunnels are. I'll probably keep it high just along the top portion of the boat here, and then I'll take it down where the lines are and where it meets where this bowl part goes in. So you can see I've drawn the inside gunnel as well. I've just used my finger as a guide. Again, we're just doing this a little bit roughly, but I'm just using my finger as a guide for depth all the way around. And what I'll do is I'll use one of the chisels just to get underneath that little line there. Gives a little extra movement inside the boat as well, and it thins off this little area here, the thickness of the boat just along the edge here, and we can get that out of there. See, I've got the gun line on the back here or on the side, and got a keel on there, and I've done the same thing on this side. And what I'll probably do is actually thin this area off a little bit, so that when it comes in, it'll come in a little bit thinner. It just looks a little bit heavy to the size of the boat, canoe bowl. So we'll do that portion right now. This work was done by chisel or maybe even a bent knife. Let's see how it works. So things start slowing down at this point as you're getting a little bit more of the finishing in there. I'm just getting this front portion of the bow done, and this getting this a little bit more smooth. I was using the bent knife on the front here just to smooth out the gunnel line. You can see there where it's I've drawn back on pencil, and I'm just using this curve here. I don't really want to have like a really sharp edge or corner to that gunnel right on the inside of this cut here. I want it to be a nice round edge, nice and smooth and round. And what I used for that is this bent knife, and it has a really nice shape to it. It gets the shape that I want to get in there. So at this point it's just a bit of a slower process with refining all these shapes, and in doing so you just slow down and just start using your eye and taking a look at where the high points are, and then using the appropriate knife. If it doesn't work with the bent knives, I'll go to something different, go to skews or maybe a straight knife. But for the most part, those bent knives, they have a portion where they're a little bit flat. You can use them as a straight knife as well, and you can use that portion of the knife. Nice thing about what the places I'm working on, I have just tacked my canoe bowl down to the carving table by a couple clamps. Now that I've taken the inside out of it, I can just clamp it down. And you know, I can actually just show you what it looks like. Just with a couple clamps. So I've got a clamp with a little bit of rubber on it, just so it doesn't dent too much of the wood there. And then I put an F clamp over top of it, and it's really quite sturdy. It's not going to move anywhere. That way I can use both my hands. Okay, so I'm just going to shape off the top of this little piece right here, the top of the stern on this little canoe bowl. I don't want to make these lines too sharp. I want them nice and round. It goes along with most of the rest of the other sort of knifed parts of the boat. And to do this little piece here, I'm just going to take it down a little bit. I don't need to take off a lot of wood, but I'm going to use another gouge. It's a 9/15, so it has a nice bend to it, like that. And because I'm working in a small area, I've chosen a gouge that's can work in that area. So when I'm working on this, I'm working with the grain going this way towards the center of the boat. I've tacked it to my bench with a F clamp, and on the inside here I have a nice piece of rubber that so I'm not marking the boat with the clamp. And all I'm going to do is line it up with the lines of the gunnel, and I'm going to follow the gunnel through here, and you'll see it might just come off in a little piece like that as I run with the grain. And what it's doing is just giving me a little bit of a shape to the stern here. Again, I don't need to take off a whole bunch of wood. I just want to make it so it stands out but doesn't stand out a lot. Now, there's different ways that you can handle this portion of the boat, or the canoe, and it's up to you really if you want to just study some of the older pieces and see what they've done in here, because there's all different types of ways you can do it. This is the way I've chosen to do it today. So after I've taken some of the material out with that gouge, I've moved to a bend knife. Again, this knife is a really good shape for that inside piece. The shapes that I want to get put into the boat. So. pretty much the shape I would like to do. Just needs to clean up a little bit. And that's how you do one side of the boat, or the one side of the canoe bowl, and then we'll do the other side of the canoe bowl just the same way. And, just using a bent knife and a number 9 chisel.